Much to my surprise, Miami did nothing and jumped Notre Dame and made the college football playoff. The ACC was not left out despite the doomsday scenario with Duke winning the conference actually happening. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to give our final ACC power rings, and then we'll give our first ACC basketball power rings, and you can let me know if that's something that you like and we should keep doing. Let's start with Miami. They didn't play Duke or Virginia. They were I think most people felt the best team, the toughest team to beat. They were second only to Virginia in our power rankings. They were way above Duke, who had a 9, and they were going to be left out of the playoff. They were behind Notre Dame, and that was going to be the cut line after, or really regardless of whether Duke or Virginia had won. But when Duke won, that means James Madison was the fifth best fifth best conference champion, not in a power conference, regardless. So they became the 12 seed instead of Duke or instead of Virginia. And that means that the ACC was left out. But then the committee decided, actually, we should flip Miami and Notre Dame based on nothing changing. I think it's outrageous. I think it's crazy that they said Notre Dame was better. And honestly, I'm not a big stickler about the head-to-head. I thought Notre Dame's overall resume was marginally better. If you want to go with the head-to-head, I think that's fine too. I have no problem either way. But I don't know how you have Notre Dame above them. And then when Duke wins and you realize you're going to leave out the conference and upset the powers that be in the ACC was lobbying. They were posting stuff about how head-to-head, those teams are always ranked higher. Once that scenario gets set up, all of a sudden they kick Notre Dame to the curb. They put Miami in. Look, it's great for the ACC. Let's celebrate it here. Join in the comments. Tell me how much you love Notre Dame being left out. I'm sure you do. And I'm happy about it for the most part. But this process is horrible. Process by the ACC and College Football Playoff Committee to flip their rankings. Either don't come out with them so early, or when you come out with them, they better mean something. I heard that they didn't compare, Miami and Notre Dame because they weren't next to each other. And then since BYU lost, they became next to each other. So then they looked at it. How do you not look at that? It's pretty likely that it was going to come down to this. I thought they did a poor job there. I'm fine with the final outcome. Congrats to James Madison. I think that's cool they get in. This system's really bad, though. Now for the ACC, this 5-way tiebreaker, I mean, it sounds reasonable that a tiebreaker goes by record of your common ACC opponent or your ACC opponents. How tough of a schedule did you play? But, I mean, to completely disregard the non-conference and how good the team actually is, I mean, it's a little silly. I think going to 9 conference games is actually the biggest thing that'll help this because you won't have so many ties. You won't have so few head-to-head battles. So honestly, a lot of it's going to be solved with that. I think, all but I think it's like 16 out of the 17 teams are going to be playing 9 conference games every year. Weird that it's not all of them. I think Clemson's going to oftentimes, if not always, be the one with 8. But that's going to help things a lot. I saw some people talking about divisions. They should have never gotten rid of divisions. Well, you can't really do divisions because you have 17 teams. You don't have 16 or 18. If you had 16, yeah, you could do it. As bad as Boston College is in basketball, football, and baseball, maybe you should have 16. But since you don't, it's pretty hard to do, at least unless you added somebody. So maybe you could add Tulane. I don't know if they really have the TV kind of draw to make it worth it. But if you did, that could make sense. And here's how it could look. It could actually be pretty cool. So these are the 2 divisions. I didn't name them or anything. But one side would have Miami as kind of the headliner. And this division's deep. You have Miami, strong program. Georgia Tech, strong program. Virginia Tech, I think a strong program again. Virginia just played in the championship game. Louisville is really solid. SMU is really solid. Pittsburgh's really solid. Cal, not half bad. And then a new team, maybe Tulane, maybe West Virginia. I don't know if they'd really be interested, but whatever. Fill in a new team there. Their rivals are directly across. So Miami would play Florida State every year. Georgia Tech would play Clemson every year, Wake Forest and Virginia Tech, and so on. So you preserve the key rivalries. But the thing is, even with 9 games, you look at this, you're going to play really only the other teams in your division and your one rival. Clemson, barring seeing Miami in a championship games, never going to play Miami. They're never going to play Louisville again or SMU or Pittsburgh or Cal. And you're playing 9 conference games. You're never going to schedule these teams in non-conference either. So you essentially have 2 sub-conferences. That's why they can't really do it. If you had 2 fewer teams or 1 from the 17, if you went down to 16, let's say like Boston College and the new team are not in there, then you'd have your rival and you could rotate and play the other teams every whatever that would come out to be 7 years. becomes more reasonable. So that's why they don't do divisions. I actually wouldn't hate this. I don't really care if Clemson doesn't play some of these teams. If you look at the division on the right, Clemson and Florida State are the two best programs. And so it's going to be tough and makes that league, that division or sub-conference tough. But then the rest of the conference, you get all 4 North Carolina schools. So you've got South Carolina, North Carolina, all kind of cluster there together. And then you have a couple longer trips with Boston College and Syracuse. And then each side gets one West Coast team. So it ends up being fair. The left side being deep, the right side being a little top heavy, but strong. You could see North Carolina or NC State becoming good eventually. I think it's something like that if they were to do it, but I don't think they can do it unless they contract, and they'll never contract. So that's why we don't have divisions and we can't have divisions. Now, our final ACC power rankings. Sorry, the formatting is a little weird, but we'll roll through it. I have Miami at number 1. And that's because I think Miami's the best team. They were behind Virginia. They're not the champion, but I would pick them to beat anybody on this list. I think it's a no-brainer. Now they're the only team in the college football playoff. Pittsburgh over Virginia is a little bit weird, but I think Pittsburgh's playing better football at the end of the year. Their losses to Miami and Notre Dame don't look so bad, given those were the last team in, last team out of the playoff. And I don't think any of these other teams are really of the same quality as the top 10 teams in the playoff. Not counting Tulane, who, by the way, Tulane's better than Duke, and not counting James Madison. If you exclude those, Miami's the only team that really belongs in the playoff. So you got Pittsburgh, Virginia, Georgia Tech. They really kind of fell apart towards the end. So I don't know that I would pick them. I don't know if I'd pick them above even Duke. Those kind of could go either way, but since they beat Duke, I have them above Duke. SMU really blew it against Cal. Otherwise, they probably should be in the college football playoff if they don't do that. Cal's in the Hawaii Bowl, and I'm going to have a separate video on all the bowl bids. Those should be coming out on Sunday. So like moments after I'm recording this. Louisville kind of fell apart towards the end of the year. And then you see the bottom half of the conference there on the right. So that's where the final ACC power rankings stack up. I want to pause real quick and tell you how you could support this channel. Certainly liking this video and subscribing to the channel helps a lot. And another thing you can do is support our sponsors. One of them, Section 103. They released a line of Clemson apparel. This shirt is part of that line. This one features the Clemson cadence count. They have a lot of other different unique designs that hit on Clemson traditions. They have them on t-shirts. They have good-looking polos and hats. So jump over there, jump to their website, section103.com, and use code RYAN10 for 10% off so they know I sent you. All right. Thanks for watching that, and I hope you will support Section 103. Now, we're going to do our first ACC basketball power rankings. So here we go. The bottom, I want to start off by saying ACC way better this year. These teams are the exception. Boston College is really, really bad. They're 140 in Ken Palm. They've lost not just to LSU, but to Tulane, Davidson, Central Connecticut, Florida Atlantic. They're really bad. Their defense is okay, but their offense is abysmal. This might be Earl Grant's last year. Boston College really struggling across the board in sports. Damon Stoudemire's Georgia Tech team, I thought maybe they could be decent, but they lost their starting point guard, and they're just not the same on offense. Again, really bad. They lost to Georgia, DePaul, Drake, Mississippi State. They don't have any quality wins yet. I think they're pretty bad. Pittsburgh is kind of surprising me. I thought Jeff Capel was a really good coach. Thought Pitt is kind of like a pretty strong program, but they're 5-4 with losses, a blowout, bad loss to West Virginia, lost to UCF, where I watched that one, didn't look great, lost to Quinnipiac, and then a loss to A&M, Texas A&M, not that bad, but this is a bad team. I don't think they're making the tournament. Florida State got a lot of hype. People were talking about how they were so good. They're going to be better than Clemson under first-year coach Luke Locks. Not the case. They've lost now 3 in a row, A&M, Georgia, and Houston. Those aren't bad losses, but like embarrassed in all 3 of them. Allowed 95 to A&M, lost by like almost 40. Allowed 107 to Georgia, lost again like almost by like 40, and only scored 67 against a great defensive team Houston. Actually allowed 82 there too. I don't think they're that good. I thought they got too much hype. They're not as good as Clemson right now. They're way down the list. I don't know why they were overhyped. Stanford, on the other hand, haven't really played anyone, but they're 7-1. I think we just don't know yet. They did lose to Seattle, 111th in Ken Palm. Pretty bad loss. They beat St. Louis, who's 44 in Ken Palm. Stanford's 84. That's probably about right. I think they're okay, but not like a tournament team. All right, let's move up. So Virginia Tech is next. They actually had a really exciting OT win over South Carolina, and that was a fun one. I don't know if you watched it. South Carolina really blew it. They had the ball at the end of regulation, and Michi doesn't even get a shot. He dribbles it around and then passes it as time expires. Just really poorly done. I don't think South Carolina is great, though, and you're going to overtime against South Carolina in the ACC SEC Challenge. Not great. Beat George Mason, which is decent, but they lost to St. Mary's and VCU. Virginia Tech, they're okay. They're okay. Cal beat UCLA. They're 8-1. I'm surprised, but Cal could be decent. Notre Dame was bad last year. They seem improved. They have wins over Missouri, Rutgers, TCU. They might be okay. Their losses are all acceptable. Ohio State, Kansas, and Houston. Notre Dame might be way, way improved. And then SMU, they're actually 41 in KenPom. Maybe I should have them higher, but I'm high on some of these other teams. They have a win over Mississippi State, a loss to Vanderbilt. So we don't really know much about SMU yet, but we're getting into the range with, you probably include SMU in this, where all of these teams can make the tournament. Clemson had 4 last year with North Carolina as a kind of the last team in the entire tournament, getting bounced or making the tournament, but then kind of being like a fringy team that maybe shouldn't have been in. Clemson loses to McNeese, Louisville gets upset, and then Duke makes that Final Four run. I think they'll get more than 4. I could see 5, 6, 7, or even 8. I think this conference is pretty good. I think Syracuse is good. I picked Syracuse to beat Clemson in the conference opener before the year. I am really high on them. They're good on defense, 33rd ranked. Their losses are all the top 18 teams. They beat Tennessee, which is really impressive. Tennessee's a top 20 team. They stole Nathan George from Georgia Tech. That's a big addition. And their guard play is scary good. They have Nathan George and JJ Starling. I really like that. I really like Syracuse this year. Wake is 7-3. They took number 1 Michigan, number 1 in the KenPom. I'm sure all their polls. They took them to OT. They were within 1 point of Texas Tech. Bad loss to Oklahoma, but they did beat Memphis, West Virginia. I think they're going to end up being good. I like Wake Forest a lot. NC State, I've actually lowered. I had them 4 at the start of the year, kind of in my head. I guess this is the start of the year. This is the first official one. They don't have any good wins yet. I mean, VCU and Boise State are okay. They were competitive with Texas, lost to Seton Hall, lost to Auburn, both of those double digits. I don't know. I thought NC State would be more impressive. Their defense hasn't been that good. So I'm starting to get some question marks about NC State, but I still think they're good. Here's the top 6. I think Clemson doesn't have an elite scorer, and that's a problem. There's not a guy you trust to go to at the end of games. Justin Porter is sometimes awesome, other times disappears. He's shooting 33% from 3, and he's the go-to guy from 3. I think that's my main concern with Clemson, is they're kind of a bad 3-point shooting team, under 33% on the year, 203rd overall. They don't shoot a ton of threes, but they don't make them either. And I think for Clemson's offense to be like really, really good, that's got to get better. They're still 23rd in offensive efficiency despite that, because they're so good in the post. RJ Godfrey has been awesome. Carter Welling's been very good. Nick Davidson maybe a little bit disappointing, but more recently finding his footing. I think this is a deep Clemson team with legitimately like 8 guys you trust, 10 guys who can play, and a really, really good post. So like Clemson a lot. Think probably right now I'm leaning towards these 6, probably the top 7 making the tournament, and 8, 9, 10, maybe one of those. But any of the top 10, I think, are still very, very, I mean, the top 12, even 13 are alive, but I would say you feel good if you're kind of in the left half in blue. And then top couple, Miami, 37th in KenPom, beat Georgetown, who Clemson lost to. That's kind of how I decided to put them over them. They lost to BYU, who Clemson plays on Tuesday, so maybe they flip after that. They beat Mississippi. It seems like Jai Lucas has put things together. They added Malik Renew, who they got from Indiana. He's been a big ad for them through the portal. And then Virginia, this is basically, I think it's literally a whole new team, even more turnover than Clemson. They beat Texas, Dayton, and Northwestern. They do have a loss to Butler, but they've been impressive. Really good on offense. Okay on defense, really good on offense. Kind of a different formula from what we kind of know to expect from Virginia. Very different, good offensive team. Let me check their tempo. I don't think they're slow either. No, they're still slow. Still slow paced, but good on offense now. I'm high on North Carolina. They're 25 in Ken Palm. They're 7-1. They lost to, I think, a very good Michigan State team in a blowout. But I thought they looked good against Kentucky on the road, won there. They also beat Kansas at home. I think North Carolina's a tournament team. I'd be really surprised if they don't get like a top 8 seed or better. I think UNC is good. And then Louisville, their resume is not great yet. They have a win over Cincinnati, but Cincinnati's kind of been a disappointment. They have a good win over Indiana, but they lost to Arkansas in the ACC SEC Challenge. But their offense is stellar. Number 4 in Ken Palm as of this recording. I think they're really good. But Duke's maybe even better. Duke's undefeated. Duke beat Michigan State. Duke beat Florida. Duke beat Arkansas. Duke beat Kansas. Duke beat Texas. They're 10-0. They're 4th in Ken Palm. They have a top 10 offense, top 10 defense. I don't want to talk about them, but they're really, really good. They're probably a Final Four team again. They just reload. Great program. What else can you say? But I think the big story, ACC, way better than last year. It's going to be a lot more fun to follow. So let me know if you like these updates on the full ACC power rankings, or if I should stick to just occasional Clemson basketball or otherwise talk football. But let me know. As always, thanks for watching. Please support our sponsors, Ready Vets in Section 103, and go ACC. Thank you to our sponsor, Ready Vets. If you live in the upstate and have a dog or cat that needs immediate care, Ready Vets is the place to go. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe.